Okay, I think we are now online. So hello everyone, welcome and thank you for joining us for this Insurance Marketing Group webinar. We also like to call the insurance group the IMG. I'll be referring to it as that throughout the meeting. So my name is Simon Johnston. I'm the marketing director at Markel, and I'm also a volunteer as part of the team at the IMG. Just a reminder for those of you who might be new to the IMG, what we aim to be is the watering hole for insurance marketeers. So providing time, space and stimulus to help members connect and refresh their thinking about all the things they do in their day-to-day lives. You can find out more about us and the aims of the group at imghub.co.uk, or you can follow us on our LinkedIn page as well, where you'll find loads of great content and have the opportunity to sign up to be a member. It is completely free, so please do sign up if you haven't already. Many of you on the call today attended our relaunch in July. We had a drinks reception at One Under Lime, kindly sponsored by our friends at Free Partners. Thank you to everyone that attended. That relaunch was the start of a new wave of activity for us. So lots of things designed to engage and enable us as a community. So watch this space for more things to come. And the other thing I've got to remember to talk about is that we just recently launched the 2024 Insurance Marketing Awards. So that's the 5th year of running those awards. So if any of you on this meeting know of any up-and-comers, inspiring leaders or marketing teams that do remarkably good work, now's the time to nominate them, and you can find more details on the website. So talking of inspiring leaders, let's get on with the webinar today, and you'll get to have the opportunity to hear from 3 of the most inspiring leaders I think there are in the business at the moment. Our topic today is the power of storytelling in B2B marketing and the importance of using emotion to stand out from the crowd. We're going to explore what we mean by storytelling, why we think it's important, how you get buy-in, and we're going to hear from our experts about any tips or tricks they've got of how they use it in their marketing activity. And whilst we've got a very passionate and knowledgeable group, with exciting stories to share, we really want to hear from you guys attending the webinar. So if you do have any questions you'd like to put to the panel during the discussion, please do type them in the chat or the Q&A. When adding a question, if you want to identify yourself, please include your name. And if your question's directed at a certain panelist, then please just add their name at the start of the question. Just a tip, I've been told that some of you will be joining from corporate devices. Sometimes corporate devices don't like the Q&A and the chat feature. So if you do have any difficulty accessing that, I'm told if you log out and access the webinar via your browser, then that should appear more naturally. Now, we've got a large number of attendees on the session today, so thank you very much for everyone that's chosen to spend their time with us. So most importantly, let's get you introduced to our expert panel. And hopefully you can see them on your screen now. And Kinga appears first on my screen. So Kinga, perhaps you can introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Simon. And hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Kinga Vajidrong. I am a senior marketing manager at Gallagher. In my role, I'm responsible for the marketing efforts of Gallagher in EMEA, and in particular to our large corporate clients and prospects. I've been in the insurance industry for 7 years now, across the insurer side and now at the broker side. And yeah, very excited to be here and share insights with you.
Cool, thank you. Sarah, you're next on my screen. Can we go to you?
Yes, hi everybody. Thanks for joining us today. So I'm Sarah Sutton and I'm CMO at Send. Send has got an underwriting platform that we sell to the commercial and specialty industry. I've been in Marcoms for around the last 15 years, most of that in the insurance sector. Currently at a vendor and responsible for brand demand, customer success to a growing number of insurance organizations, UK and US. Thanks, Simon.
Awesome, thank you. And last but not least, last on my screen is Joe.
Hi everyone, I'm Joe Walker. I'm EVP of Marketing for Loadsure, which is an insurtech MGA using data and AI to understand supply chain risk and provide accurately priced insurance and to put actionable risks in the hands of assureds. I've got almost 20 years of marketing and communication experience, with only the last 2.5 of them being in insurance. So it's been a heck of a learning curve.
Great, thanks, Joe. And Joe is far too humble to mention it, but his team are actually the current marketing team of the year at the Insurance Marketing Awards that he won last year. So definitely hearing from an industry expert today.
Thanks for bringing that up. It was more of a reflection on my team, that award, but thank you for mentioning it.
You say, and obviously for everyone it's just joining us, we have mentioned the awards. We'll plug it again at the end, but you'll find details on the website. Something we're very excited about doing again this year. So the topic today, what everyone's come together to talk about, is actually the brainchild of one of our panelists today. So I think it's only fair that we start with her. So Sarah, when we're talking about storytelling, what was it you mean by storytelling?
Thanks, Simon. I'm really passionate about talking about this topic, and I'm really keen to get other views. And I love the way Kinga and Joe have framed it when we've had kind of prep calls. But the way that I'm thinking about it is that it's all about the narrative that you're creating to resonate with your audience on a really personal level. So we do this every day. We do this in our friends, family conversations. We see this a lot in B2C, and it works because it's engaging. It creates connection, emotional connection, but importantly, it's memorable. So the best ads and the best moments that we have with brands are memorable to us. Now, I know in B2B, it feels a lot more logical, and it feels like we're still making, decisions based on more probably feature-based, but emotions play a critical role with humans selling to humans, and storytelling helps to humanize our brands. A lot of the products that we sell in this industry, they're technical, they're complex. And this helps to sort of break it down into a narrative that is digestible and that people can understand, relate to. The way that I like to think about it is that your buyer's always thinking, what's in it for me? So you've got to present your product and services in a way that that buys into that message that they're wanting to understand, what's in it for me.
Great, thank you. What you said about resonating there really resonated with me, actually. And how about you, Joe? Same question to you.
Well, I tell you, it's very hard to expand on what Sarah did. That was an excellent and exhaustive answer. I suppose it's one thing that we didn't mention just there was the role of empathy in this. We've really got to understand the people that we're talking to. We have to capture their attention, capture their imagination, build trust, and motivate them to take action. So essentially, and I think Sarah captured this very, very eloquently in what she said, essentially personalizing the value of the product or the service to the audience and helping them to imagine what it's going to be like to use it or also to not use it. I think one thing that's really important to consider in storytelling is that the user is the center of the story, not the product. So really getting under the skin of the user and understanding what it is that they want and they need is integral to it for me.
Great, thank you, Joe. And Kinga, can I put the same question to you? I appreciate the other guys have given quite broad answers there, but anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I mean, Sarah and Joe covered that beautifully. I think it's all about focusing on the customer. I think a lot of the time, Sarah, to your point, insurance is really technical. So we're very compelled to talk about the technical elements of it, which are very important. But storytelling for me is about what is that customer need that we can relate to create very credible brand stories that the customer is going to remember. So we are engaging them on that deeper level and building that trust in the brand. When I think about this on a B2C level, you look at Coca-Cola and Pepsi, a lot of people have a brand preference that maybe isn't focused necessarily on the product itself, but the stories and the brand that has been built around one of those. So for me, yeah, it's about creating those credible brand stories to build that trust.
That's a great example.
Yeah, it is. It's a great example. And actually, that probably leads me into where I want to go next with this, because there's some great sort of descriptors there to describe what we think storytelling is. But I guess if we sort of just try and ground that a little bit for our members, just some tangible examples, not say from insurance or B2B, but from us as just consumers in our day-to-day lives. Maybe if I ask you, Joe, any examples that you would kind of have front of mind when you're thinking about this area that you would draw upon?
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if anyone on the call will remember Google's Dear Sophie campaign, which they ran to promote the Chrome browser. So it would have been the early 2010s now. It depicted a parent documenting their child's journey in a series of emails to an account that they set up for them, a Gmail account that they set up for them at birth, culminating in the strapline that the web is what you make it. So when I watched that, it was the timing was perfect. I had a young child at the time, and I was actually inspired to do something very similar for my own child. So it really got to me. Nowhere in the campaign do they mention the speed of the browser, the security of the browser. It's really about enabling us to connect with this product or this service with storytelling. And another one which I think it would be remiss of me not to mention, and anyone that's on the call that doesn't know what I'm talking about, please, after this call, go and search YouTube for this ad. So it was to promote the Channel 4's coverage of the Paralympics in 2012. So there's a campaign that they called Meet the Superhumans. It depicted Special Olympic athletes in preparation for the event, and then harshly cut into the center of it the thing that happened that led to them competing in the Paralympics. Extremely powerful storytelling. It effectively gave me a hook to empathize with the journey of the athletes, and really dragged me into watching it. I watched it in 2012, and I've watched it at every Olympics following. It obviously wasn't just me. I did a bit of Google food before the call. The campaign resulted in a 37% uptick over the 2008 Olympics in watchers of the Paralympics. So it really was a powerful campaign. And the song that featured in the ad is a Public Enemy track, which has been on my gym playlist since 2012. So also a brilliant gift from that one for me.
Excellent answer. Just for those of you listening, I appreciate some of you 2012 might be a long time ago, or maybe a bit early for you in your career. So what we'll do is, on any of these examples that the guys might mention, we'll try and include links to them in the speaker notes when we send this out afterwards, because I'm not familiar with all those just referenced so far. I'm sure some of you aren't either. So we'll make sure we get those included, because great case studies to use in your own work. And Kinga, you mentioned Coca-Cola. Any more that spring to mind for you?
Yeah, I think when I think about brands that do stuff amazingly, I mean, Apple comes to mind every time. And they did a campaign called Shot on iPhone. It actually launched in 2015, and it has been an ongoing campaign that happens every time a new iPhone is released. And the idea was that they were just encouraging users to share photos and videos they took via their iPhone, via social media, dedicated microsite, all of that good stuff that you see in campaigns. The prize being that they would have then been included in a TV ad. So none of this actually focused on the product or the capabilities of the new iPhone, but they were really showcasing what their users were utilizing the fund for. So you saw pictures and videos of cute babies, people taking videos from the sky, and it's really grown now to the point where, yes, it's a tradition every time an iPhone is released, but we've seen music videos being shot on an iPhone. So recently, the new Weeknd song, Dancing in the Flames, was completely shot on an iPhone. I think what was really nice about it is that it was that user-generated content, and it really kind of made you think, oh, this is lovely. They had so many reiterations of it, shot and edited on an iPhone now, and yeah, it was a really successful campaign. I think over 70 million interactions on Instagram alone. and over 100,000 photos that were submitted by the kind of followers of Apple. And I think Apple, again, another one of those brands where there's a constant war between Apple and Samsung, and people have preferences that aren't necessarily at all related to the product and the features that it has. The other one that I keep thinking back to is actually quite a lovely and emotional story of an Always campaign called Like a Girl. And this was actually an ad that was originally around 3 minutes long, that was shortened for the Super Bowl. And the premise was that it was a video in which young girls, firstly, the adults were asked to kind of showcase how do you run like a girl or throw like a girl. And they did the usual stereotypical, and like playing with their hair, like really showcasing these stereotypes that we have about girls and women. And then they asked 9 and 10-year-old girls to do the same things, and they would be doing them amazingly well without any of those stereotypes. And then they asked the people, what do you think like a girl is an insult? And it was kind of emotionally very hard hitting. And, you know, it's led to this whole other thing that Always is doing now, without mentioning the product at all. They now run education programs around the world. They help girls in third world countries to access Always products. They've been mentioned by the United Nations. And actually what they saw was, in 3 months after the ad launched, the positive sentiment for the brand reached 96%, which is absolutely amazing when you think about tangible results that you can display to your stakeholders. So yeah, those are the two that kind of spring to mind for me.
Can I? That's a fantastic example. My wife, when she ran the New York Marathon, had a T-shirt printed that said "I ran like a gal" on it. I think it's a brilliant story, brilliant message.
Yeah, super examples there, Kinga. Thank you. We've had a few people join us after we started, so I just wanted to take a quick commercial break to remind people, if you've got any questions for our panelists, you can put them in the Q&A or the chat, and we'll find them. If you're having trouble accessing that, particularly in a corporate environment, we're told if you log in via your browser rather than your Teams account, it becomes a lot easier to access some of that functionality. So do put your questions in there, and we'll do our very best to get to all of those at the end of the session. So we heard a couple of examples there from our panel, and bringing it to life a little bit from life outside of insurance. So what about you? Just bringing it back to insurance for a minute, then I often hear when we talk about marketing, I'm talking to people from outside the industry, insurance is different, it's not the same. We haven't got this product, that other people have this nice shiny thing and people don't want to buy it. Why do we think storytelling is so important when it comes to insurance or B2B? And Sarah, we didn't get to your last question, so let's start with you. Any examples or experiences from your career?
So I actually think we're in a sector that puts us in a really strong position to craft meaningful stories to humanize what we do. If you think around the protection that we're offering, and the comfort and the peace of mind, and the safety, and what that means for the end buyer, it's a brilliant opportunity for us to put ourselves in the shoes of our customer, to some of the points raised earlier, really understand what it is they're dealing with, what they're worried about, and talk to them about the emotional benefit. There is more of a growing trend to use storytelling in B2B generally. I don't think we see enough of it in this sector. I think that's all on us. We are the people here that can absolutely change that, and must change that. I'll give you an example, Simon, of what we've done at Send. So very briefly, Send's a platform for underwriters, but typically the IT is the decision maker. And when we launched Send several years ago, we wanted to talk directly to the end user, to the underwriter, about how we could help them get back to doing the work they love. So many underwriters that in your organizations, they are under huge pressure to write better business faster, but many of them are suffering with bottlenecks, manual data, slow, inefficient systems, and they just can't get to the good stuff. So our platform makes life easier for them. It does all the heavy lifting so they can focus on the work they love. And we crafted a campaign called Love Underwriting, directly aimed at the underwriters. How can we help you get back to doing the work you love? So it was an emotionally charged campaign. We didn't talk about the features of the platform. We could have done, but we chose to take a route that was more about how do we help you deal with something that you're facing. And it helped us stand out against other more corporate vendors. And it was very personal. It resonated. We've had many underwriters say to us, this really resonates with me. And from there, we've built our pipeline. So for anyone that's on the fence wondering, does this work? Can you do it? Yes, we've done that. We've shown that it's possible. And more to the point, it's absolutely necessary if you want to get traction and stand out in what is quite a noisy marketplace.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And I actually checked out your campaign before we joined the call today, and I can absolutely, as someone who's spent the last 20 years in underwriting environments, I can absolutely agree that you really did sort of use the language and touch upon the points that you hear in underwriting environments. Those pain points are so critical for an effective campaign. And Kinga, how about you? You know, sort of bringing it back to insurance. You know, why do we think storytelling's important or unique in our industry?
Yeah, so I think something that I covered earlier is that we are in a world where we are being pushed to talk about, you know, the coverage, the price, the limits, the value add benefits. That's definitely, when I was at an insurer, that's definitely what we did, and we felt the underwriting teams push us to do. Now being at a broker, it's still about, well, hang on, it's about the price, and it's about these things that we can offer and the products we can give access to. Some of these things are super important, especially from a regulatory perspective, but they're not exciting. And they don't kind of make you go, oh, that's really fancy, because I can get 150k limit instead of 100k limit, if we're really honest with ourselves. I think one of the things that we're kind of battling as an insurance industry is the fact that we often can have a bit of bad reputation. If anyone's tried renewing their car insurance in the last 12 to 18 months, I've definitely felt really annoyed at my insurance company, and many have that feeling in their personal lives, let alone in B2B. We saw that during COVID. One of the things that we're selling, it's not a tangible product. We're selling a promise. We're telling people that if something goes really badly wrong, you're going to be covered, and we're going to have your back. And unfortunately, during COVID, so many insurers let businesses down. And when we think about, you know, there's large corporate businesses who have loads of money, we don't deliver on a promise, they're going to be annoyed, but they're going to make it. When you're talking about SME clients, very often that's their livelihood that could be gone. So I think there is a lot of emotion in it, especially when you look on the smaller scale of the client. One of the things that I think we in insurance need to do more of and remember as marketeers is very often we can be the only ones in a room that actually represent the customer, that are talking about insights and data, that have access. And in my kind of experience over the years, bringing that insight and data is super important when we're having conversations right from the start of product development, talking about who our customers actually are, developing personas, ensuring that they are being represented when we are making product development decisions before we even get to the marketing, means that once we do get to the marketing bit, it then can become really, really easy to kind of build that trust. There's customer stories, there's brand stories, there's case studies, because we know everything about that customer, and we've made sure that everyone internally knows everything about that customer, which in turn will lead to a bit of internal alignment in how we actually talk to them and represent our brand.
Yeah, great answer. Great answer. Thank you. And how about you, Joe? Just to round things up for us.
To be honest, my mind was blown by the eloquence of the last two answers, but I'll try and add something meaningful. I mean, Sarah mentioned that B2B decisions are basically data centric. It's a pragmatic procurement process, which is, you know, designed to assess product in their own technical terms. It's a cost benefits analysis effectively, but we're all human beings, and we ultimately experience products or services firsthand, and we're ultimately compelled emotionally. So as Sarah and King have both mentioned, and very eloquently, I think, in insurance, our product ultimately is protection. It's the guarantee that everything's going to be okay in the event that the worst should happen. That's a really personal motivator, and one that lends itself perfectly to storytelling, where FOMO, or the implication of not having adequate cover, and trust that yours is the company that will ensure that I'll be made whole in the event that there's a loss, are essential elements. At Loadsure, we're really lucky. We've got a genuinely innovative approach to what we're doing. We really are doing it differently, and it makes it considerably easier to differentiate ourselves from our industry competitors. That said, in our world, one of our biggest competitors is no insurance at all, or the misguided notion that the mandatory minimum is enough. So we put considerable effort into educating our assured community in the supply chain, their exposure and the availability of a new way of working, and of course putting Loadsure at the heart of that. It's a long game for us, but at the moment we see that it's paying dividends.
Great. Yeah, love it, and love that about biggest competitor is no insurance at all. That's so true, absolutely so true. So you a couple of you referenced examples from your own businesses then. There's obviously representation in our audience here across varying areas of the insurance industry, broker, insurer, etc. Every year when I walk into things like Bieber or Emic, I probably spend the first half an hour going, wish I'd done that, or wish I'd done that. You know, there's some really great stuff going on in the industry at the moment. So I'd be really keen to hear from you guys, given that you are, you know, faces of the industry out there in the market. You know, what are the examples of storytelling in action that you wish you'd done, that you really admire? And Kinga, maybe if I start with you, any examples that stick in your mind?
Yeah, I think I've got two, and they're quite different, because I think we naturally, when we talk about storytelling, we've been leaning into quite hard emotions. So, you know, you kind of try to play on people's heartstrings almost, and a lot of the stuff that works really well does exactly that. So there was an ad that AIG did, and it was done in particular to raise awareness of their, I think it was life and retirement division. People didn't really know about it, and it was done during the height of COVID, so it was very, very timely. Completely recorded remotely. It was a little girl on a Zoom call, telling her class that her mum's a superhero. My mum's a superhero, and she can time travel, and she knows exactly what's going to happen, because she does all that, and then she comes back, and then she tells people what they should do. And people are so happy when she does that, because they cry from happiness, because she advises them so well. And it was just a very kind of like sweet, touching moment where the teacher kind of asks the mum, what is it that you do? And she says, I'm a financial advisor. And the tagline was, I can't remember it now exactly, but something like, we're protecting all of our financial advisors, and so they can advise you for your future. So that was really touching. But actually, sometimes comedy is really good, and you can be quite funny about it, depending on where you work and how strict brand guidelines are. But I've actually seen this on Instagram the other day. A company called Ladder have basically done an ad based on research, saying that almost 50% of married couples that have life insurance joke about murdering the other one for the money. So, which sounds like a very true number, by the way. Scarily true. But they basically did this ad where the husband comes home and he's like, hi, honey. And just keeps walking around his house in the kitchen, and a knife almost kills him. And there's so many attempts on his life. And at the end, the tagline is, life insurance so good, they're going to want to kill you. With a disclaimer saying, killing a policyholder avoids the insurance policy. But I thought it was really funny, and really, really, yeah, it's an example that's stuck in my mind.
Love it. I love that. I love that. Although I'm not sure I love it either. Yeah, I'm kind of worried now about going home. That's a really, really good example. Thank you. And how about you, Joe? Any examples you wish you'd been the creator of or hope to create in the future?
Oh, thousands, including the two that Kinga just mentioned. Now they've been added to the list. So thanks for those, Kinga. Yeah, I like the Direct Line ran an ad which was developed by Starchy and Starchy, which featured the Harvey Keitel character from Pulp Fiction. I don't know if you guys will remember this. I'm using a lot of old references today. So his character is called Winston Wolfe. He's a fixer or a problem solver. So the character shows a frustrated home insurance claimant all the things that they could have done if they were assured by Direct Line instead of waiting for their competitor to settle the claim. So the USP that they're venerating is speed, obviously, but the storytelling method uses FOMO instead, and it's far more memorable and compelling. I was delighted to hear Kinga mention a comedy example there, because I think that's a really powerful tool as well, the sort of thing that makes us remember it. So yeah, that's one of many that I wish I had done.
Great. And Sarah, round us off here. Any memorable instances you can recall? Oh, you're on mute, Sarah. You're on mute.
Sorry,
it wouldn't be a webinar without
no,
it.
of course,
It wouldn't be a webinar without it.
Like Joe, I'm in the past a little bit with some of my examples, but I really love the Hiscox Encourage Courage campaign. I don't know if anyone remembers it. It was on billboards, there were digital ads. It was kind of plastered over sort of meaningful places in the city, but it was all about how do you empower business owners by highlighting the courage it takes to start a business, and then Hiscox would be there to help mitigate that risk. There might be some people on the call from the Hiscox marketing team, and if so, I know you've carried on creating really impactful campaigns, but I love that it was targeted, it was multi-channel, it was effective, it had emotional appeal, but it just stood out from a sea of others that, you know, just was refreshing and engaging, and yeah, I really loved it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I remember that. I am definitely old enough to remember that one well. And what I'd encourage all of our members, no matter where you are in your career, is keep a bank of those examples. You know, we're going to share links to the YouTubes, photography, we can find it, etc. You know, whenever you're trying to bring this to life, or this school of thought to life at work, these things can be extremely powerful, particularly because a lot of your stakeholders will probably remember them themselves, right? So really, really good stuff to have in your locker. So great examples, and thank you very much for sharing those. And as I say, we'll put links to those in the show notes. But I'm guessing that there's people on this call and on this webinar in our audience who are probably maybe earlier on in their career, or perhaps in marketing departments that aren't there on their journey yet in terms of their approach to things. So you might have people sort of still emerging from the world of brollies and brochures. How do you move to this type of marketing? Because some of this can seem really far away, when you're early on in your career. So how do you go about getting your business or your senior stakeholders bought in? How about you, Joe? You came from another industry, a couple of years in insurance, as you say. So what's been your approach in insurance?
Yes, a good question. I think that, like anything, if you can prove that it works, it makes your argument or your justification a lot more compelling. So if you can identify low or zero cost experiments to validate a hypothesis, could be as simple as A/B testing email marketing campaigns on a smaller scale before rolling out a big push. Keep these experiments contained and the consequences manageable. You're either winning, you're getting the proof that you need in order to make your case, or you're learning that it didn't work and you've got a justification to move on to another approach. So I find that proof is a really good way to motivate somebody to take action. Another one is to identify a noteworthy comparison that aligns with your company's vision. So if we're lucky, we have a visionary CEO at Loadshaw. And if your company aspires to be the Apple or Google or Amazon or whatever of industry X, then invite that comparison and give examples of industry adjacent companies, or even non-industry adjacent companies that are doing it with that method, and come up with a logical approach to illustrate the value of the concept. Of course, you're going to need to expand on how it's going to work in your particular market, but there's nothing quite like comparison to motivate as well. So proof and comparison are the two things that I would lean on first and foremost.
Great advice, thank you. And how about you, Sarah? You know, when you're staring down that, as a CMO, when you're staring down that board table of all those underwriters, lawyers, actuaries, etc., how are you getting buy-in with the senior non-marketeers?
I just think you have to take people along with you. So this might feel new, this might feel different. I think you can't do it in a vacuum. That is probably one of the worst things for a marketer, is to build something alone and then present it to the business. I think you've got to work with the teams that are very close and personal to the end customer. So help those teams help you build your personas, do the deep work, really spend time trying to nail your messaging, include people from your sales organization, your services teams, your product team. You know, this is a team effort around how you get to distill your messaging. But I think, I mean, to Joe's point, like absolutely on the comparison piece. The other thing is that there's incredible amount of stats, that there's research around understanding organizations that have invested in emotional campaigns, and you know, there's some really compelling numbers. Put those in front of your business. You know, 70% of buyers say that emotional consideration is as important as rational, and you know, you'll be looking at and measuring and optimizing your ads. We do all the time. We know that our ads that have an emotional connection are 4 times more likely to get impact, and in the long run build the long-term equity. So I think there's some compelling numbers out there, and you really need to be able to surface them and help your stakeholders understand why this investment matters.
Yeah, great, thank you. And just finally, Kinga, over to you. Anything that you would like to add to that?
I think those were 2 very, very great answers. I think you've touched both on the things that I have found are very important. One, Sarah, to your point, numbers, and getting people involved. The times I've got it wrong personally is where I have worked in a vacuum, or I haven't got people involved early enough. Even if you can identify 1 or 2 people who are up for it, who would be willing to help you, who would help you sell the context. I mean, getting allies that maybe sit within that senior stakeholder group, who, when you do go to present it, are going to be on your side and they're going to be your advocates, is really, really, really important. The other thing that Joe mentioned, you know, running tests, running low cost tests and concepts that you can actually prove with numbers and results, it is key. I mean, you know, you go into a senior stakeholder group, you go into a board meeting. Simon, to your point, is lawyers and accountants and underwriters. And, you know, the board is often talking about combined ratios and profits. So talk their language. Don't necessarily focus on how it's going to look, the pictures and the colours. We often get referred to as the colouring in department. So I actually find that stripping some of that back and taking it back to the numbers. What do we need? What are we trying to achieve? Bringing it back into the objectives that were agreed maybe earlier in the year. How is this going to help? What proof do we have? So yeah, all the things that Sarah and Joe said very much help with that, having that senior stakeholder conversation.
Yeah, totally agree. And you know, I've got to say, you know, the idea around data and experimenting, you know, so key. And you know, that doesn't have to be big, expensive stuff. I mean, everyone's probably familiar. I mean, Innocent started out, you know, getting people to throw the trash of their favorite tasting drink into a certain trash can, and then at the end of the event, just measuring how many drinks, you know, help them select which way forward. So, you know, there's data and testing right there. And then you know, I would definitely love to build on Kinga's point about, you know, getting people involved. It's amazing how many people in insurance companies are happy to get involved in marketing. You know, it's a lot of them actually, if you have a look on LinkedIn's a great tool to do this. A lot of them actually might have studied marketing. We know insurance is often a vocation people fall into from maybe studying elsewhere. Help them realize that marketing dream, get them involved. And actually the stuff we tend to talk about is often a bit more interesting than some of the things they might be working on that day. So it's always incredible how many people are happy to get involved. So try and do that. So some brilliant examples there. So I just want to remind everyone as we move a bit towards the finish, if you do have any questions, I can see there's some questions going in the chat now. Do add them in there, and we'll do our very best to get to as many of those before the finish. But before we do get to the questions, I'd be really, we talk about helping our community move on together. I guess for you guys, our panelists, what are any tips or advice you'd like to share with IMG members, beyond that stakeholder management piece about using or looking to use storytelling in their activity? Is there anything you'd like to check out with and leave them with? And maybe if I come to you first, Joe, you're first on my screen. So what would you like to add?
Yeah, no problem. And funnily enough, I've just been reading the answers that Sarah's been putting into the chat so quickly. Sarah, I don't know how you're doing this.
Sarah's far too efficient, everyone. We also ask those questions on the call as well.
Yeah. Wow. But actually, she phrased something what I wanted to say here. She put into one of the answers. Listen to your customers, empathize with them, understand who you are talking to and what it is that motivates them, and then try to articulate the value of your product in their real world terms. So help them to imagine what life could be like if they used your product or service, what is in it for them. That said, I caution not to take everything that the customer says at face value. You have to try to get to the root of their problem, really understand what it is that they're telling you. So I'm not sure if this is true or not. I'm not able to verify it with the man himself, but Henry Ford allegedly said that if he had asked the customer what they wanted, they would have told him to build a faster horse. So you do have to read between the lines and get to the root of the problem. The other thing is that FOMO is a very powerful motivator. Tell your audience about their competitor that is already taking advantage of your product or service, and emphasize that they could be the first of their competitors to get that advantage. Finally, you've got to be imaginative and you've got to be different. We're bombarded by stories in our lives, outside of work and inside of it moreover. So our stories have to capture attention and keep it, which is something that Kinga actually touched on when she brought up her examples just a moment ago.
Yeah, awesome. And Kinga, how about you? Were you on mute, Kinga?
There we go, another one. Yeah. I think I would say don't be overwhelmed by it. I think some of the stuff that we've spoken about, they're quite big campaigns by quite big companies, probably done with quite big marketing budgets. But even when you look at the Apple campaign, that started as a simple microsite and an Instagram hashtag. Granted, they have a massive following, but you don't be overwhelmed by it, because you don't have to go that big so quickly. We've spoken about trying this out on a smaller scale and seeing it work. For me, this is the super exciting bit of marketing, right? This is the bit of marketing that creates and makes you feel like your job has purpose, because not only is it more about your customer and what they need, but it is creative and it is fun and it is super exciting. So don't be overwhelmed by it and try it. Like, one of the best projects that I've worked on in my whole entire career was a storytelling campaign that I did with Simon, which was all about brokers recognizing other brokers. And it was touching, it didn't even talk about insurance. It just spoke about people. And I think that's the exciting stuff. And don't be scared to try it. Don't feel like, oh my God, I can't do this because I haven't got a massive marketing budget or a massive team behind me.
Yeah, awesome. And in the interest of transparency, Kinga and I used to work together many years ago, and the campaign she references was a great campaign that she led, getting brokers to tell stories about each other within their business. And then finally, Sarah, just over to you. Anything you'd like to leave our members with?
I think if there's one thing to take away, I think if you haven't already, do the deep work on personas. Joe talked about this, getting really up close and personal with what your customers are facing, sense checking that, and then building out your messaging. And the other thing is there are lots of examples in B2B outside of the sector. So just do your research, get curious, build your network, ask people on this network of examples they've seen. And I think to Kinga's point around don't getting overwhelmed, and I would agree. And I would also say just start and be bold, because fortune favors the bold. And I've seen it time and time again. If you feel uncomfortable, that's probably where you need to be.
Excellent. Love it. Thank you very much. Right, I'm just fiddling around here because I'm going to try and get us into our Q&A. So thank you to everyone who has been putting questions either in the chat or in the Q&A. So we've got a few minutes left, so we're going to try and turn to these now. As Joe alluded to, Sarah wins the gold medal for multitasking during this webinar, because as well as talking to you all, she's also been typing out answers to some of our questions, which is very impressive, I have to say. So we will revisit some of those just for the benefit of everyone who's on the webinar, if that's okay. So a couple of questions here. I'm just going to read out and put them to the panel. So are there particular people you need in your marketing team to aid storytelling? For example, is it all about copywriting, or is there more to it? And maybe Sarah, seeing as you've so eloquently answered that one on the chat, maybe you'd like to start us there.
Yeah, copywriting comes right at the end. Copywriting is one of the final things you produce when you're ready with the message. But the work you need to do with the internal teams around who are you talking to, what are you going to say, and why does it matter, and how are you going to build some messaging that resonates? You do that as a team, your marketing team, your sales team, your people that represent your customer. So there's a group of you that need to come together. Once you've got that and you've developed some personas and you've developed your messaging narrative, I would spend the most amount of time getting that messaging framework in place. That's the anchor, and everything else flows from that. Your copywriting, your web pages, your digital ads, your microsite, everything is then built around your messaging framework. Spend more time there, then you get to the copywriting.
Right.
Yeah, brilliant answer. I was going to say that the same thing. You got to have, it's essential to have a relationship with your frontline team or your sales team or whoever it is that's actually touching with the customer on a daily basis. They really know them and they hear the pain points, but they also hear the pain points directly and unfiltered. So it's important that you're in the room to advocate for that digging deeper principle and making sure that we're getting right under the skin and asking why. Your question seems to be about the value of creative or copywriting it in particular. I think we can't underestimate that. Good creative is extraordinarily valuable. It is ultimately what gets seen. So it needs to capture attention and keep it. So copywriters are important, graphic designers, video, increasingly multimedia, infographics. You know, if you're illustrating a product benefit in the terms of the customer, they're going to want to see that expressed in an interesting way. It's my view that it's quite impractical to have that level of creative resource inside of an insurance marketing team, so far as I observed, when generally not massive teams. So a good agency partner, in my view, pays for themselves. So I think that's a really good relationship to have with the creative resource.
Yeah, great answer. So just scrolling through the questions here. So here's another one. So I'll try and do this one justice. If insurance brokers or agents are the customer, we often neglect storytelling in favor of product fact sheets and appetite guides. How would the panel apply the same principles of impactful storytelling when bringing products and services to life with this audience? And maybe, Kinga, if I start with you on that one. I know you're in the broker world right now. We have been in the insurer world before. So how would you go about that?
Yeah, I think it's a difficult one because, again, your underwriting team will be telling you the broker doesn't care. They just want to know about the fact sheets and the appetite guides. They just want to know what the appetite is. But I think Sarah's put it very rightly and very quickly in that message as well. You need to dig into what the worries are for the brokers. So what are the problems brokers are facing? Poor customer service, can't get to anyone on the phone. There's a lot of that you can take and weave into how you market to the broker partners. The campaign that we were referring to with Simon earlier, that we worked on together when I was at Markel with Simon, was actually probably one that kind of spun as a result of that. We wanted to create a platform for brokers to recognize good service in the industry, because the things that we spoke about, that we said what brokers are struggling with, is everyone keeps complaining that they're getting really crap service from insurers, and insurers are taking phone numbers off the website. So we wanted to create a way to celebrate service that didn't talk about Markel at all. So what we asked brokers to do is recognize a broker colleague that has been doing amazingly within their role. Have they done something extraordinary? And some of the stories that came through were actually really emotive. I remember we had one of a lady who worked at Partners End who was really struggling with her health, but was still turning up to work. So this was a way for us to kind of take something that really mattered to brokers, which was service, not talk about Markel at all, and bring it to the forte. And I think that campaign has done really, really well, because I've seen that you guys have done it again at Bieber, Simon, which is really exciting. Really exciting.
I didn't pay Kinga to promote any Markel campaigns, just in the interest of transparency. But I would be a huge advocate of bringing the customer voice into the storytelling. The authenticity and the angles you achieve from bringing that in. It can be so special sometimes and actually require so little marketing effort versus just putting a person in front of a camera and letting, or a speaker up and letting them talk can be absolutely fantastic results. So sort of back to the questions here. So we got a question from Ed. And he says he's got a background in TV and film, so someone else who didn't start from the insurance industry. So, but besides the highly creative advert ideas, he says great interviews from people tell emotional stories can be incredibly powerful. What importance would the panel put on authenticity in terms of these types of stories? Maybe Sarah, if I start with you on that one.
I think that's almost at the heart of effective storytelling, and probably to Ed's point, I think in that way video can be a really effective medium. So we know people like to learn and consume information in different ways. Not everybody wants to read what you've put on your website, they want to watch. So I think as you think about your campaigns, and you've created that voice, and I think authenticity builds trust, and people buy from who they know, like, and trust. So it's got to be conveyed. But I do think video is a really important asset. As you think about the assets you need to tell your story, I think it should definitely be in there.
Yeah, I completely agree. Kinga mentioned earlier, referenced the consequences for an SME of having poor coverage or no coverage. That's an incredibly compelling motivator, and getting a story told by someone like that, for example, or my business was saved by product X, or I received the best possible service from product Y, which meant that I wasn't worried. Authentically told and captured. It doesn't need to be high production value. It doesn't need to be 20 cameras, 40 boom mics, whatever. But a true story told authentically is a really powerful thing. So the question, Simon, was on the value of authenticity. Absolutely essential.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. So we do have some more questions that we haven't got to today. So we will try and address those in the notes after the event, and we'll try and give written answers. Although I have to say, Sarah is probably going to do that for us because she's just so efficient. Has been doing it throughout. So, but it's been a really, really great discussion, guys. So thank you very much, and thank you to everyone who's attended. We've heard some great examples and advice. So thank you to Sarah, Joanne, Kinga for their time today. I also want to thank the rest of the IMG team, Michelle, Cara and David, for all their work behind the scenes preparing for today. And we really want to say thanks to the team at Free for their support in building the promotional activity for the session. We're obviously going to do more of this. If you're thirsty for more, we'll be holding more webinars shortly. So watch out on our website and our LinkedIn pages. If you've got any ideas or would like to take part in future sessions, please do get in touch with us via those channels. We'd love to hear from you. As a reminder, you can find out more about the IMG at imghub.co.uk. Please do sign up. It's totally free to be a member. And don't forget about the awards, now open for entries. You've heard from 3 brilliant insurance marketers today. Let's showcase even more insurance marketers by nominating your contacts and colleagues via the platform. I hope you've got a lot out today. I mean, my takeaways from today are, share best practice as much as you can, get researching, get curious, test, learn, get experimenting, get bold. Fortune favors the brave. And if your partner asks to see a life insurance document, get running for the door. And with that, I thank you all very much for your time this afternoon. I hope you've enjoyed our time together. I wish you all the very best. Thank you.